Hello friends, it's Ria here. If you have failed at making a decent sponge cake, or any other cake for that matter, you're not alone. I have failed miserably numerous times. I have blamed the flour, the baking powder, the eggs, the butter, the mixer, and I was even close to buying a new oven. But it wasn't until I noticed that it was my stubbornness and unwillingness to stick to a recipe and pay attention to details that was the main problem. I can't say I'm a professional or that my sponge cake recipe is perfect or the best, but I will share with you some very important tips to ensure that you don't make the same mistakes I did. So if you're interested in learning more, let's start baking. First thing I do is to preheat my oven and assemble the ingredients. Then I'll grease and line the bottom of my baking pan 6, 8 or 9 inches with parchment paper or prepare using butter and flour, doing so lightly on the sides. Next I'll place a sifter above a bowl, a large bowl, and I'll add in the flour, the baking powder, the cinnamon and the cardamom if you're using. Sift and whisk a couple of times to lighten and set aside. Here I'm adding the salt and the baking powder after because the salt grains aren't fine enough to go through the sifter. Next you'll need 2 sticks of room temperature butter, and I always use the best quality butter I can find, sweet cream or my favorite Kerry Gold. I usually take it out from the refrigerator the night before and leave it on the counter to come to room temperature. If you're using butter from a tub, measure out 8 ounces, which is equivalent to 227 grams or 1 cup. Next we'll place the butter in a large bowl or in the bowl of an electric mixer, and we'll whisk on high using the electric mixer or a hand mixer, and we'll whisk on high for 1 minute. Next add 1 cup of white granulated sugar and whisk on high until it's smooth, light in color, fluffy, and doubled in size about 5 minutes. I found that during the winter time it would take up to 10 to 15 minutes or more to achieve that light fluffiness. While that's doing its magic, we have sufficient time to crack the eggs into a bowl, add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract and the rind of a lime to remove the freshness from the eggs. Sometime after 2 to 3 minutes, stop the mixer and scrape down the sides of the bowl and the bottom. Ensure that the butter and the sugar is evenly incorporated. Then we'll continue to whisk until the process is completed, and again until it's light and fluffy. We'll add the eggs one at a time and beat until combined, each time about 10 to 15 seconds. We'll scrape down the sides of the bowl as well midway to ensure that it's evenly incorporated. I used to use about 4 eggs in my recipe and I found that my cake was not moist enough, so I now add 5 eggs and I usually weigh it to ensure that it's about 9 ounces. Anything less than that and my cake does not come out moist for some reason. On the box it said large eggs, but they seemed pretty small to me. So you have to gauge whether your eggs are truly small or large. If they are large, then you can use 4, but if they are tiny, like what you saw in the video earlier, then use 5. Also keep in mind that the color of your cake will depend on the quality of the butter you use. The yellower, the purer the butter, yellower the cake will be. And also if you use organic eggs or pasteurized eggs or eggs from a home farm, then the cake will have a lovely yellow rich color. Next we'll divide the flour into 3 and add 1/3 at a time, mixing only until just combined or alternating with the milk. So you'll add flour, milk, and you will end with the flour. For the liquid in this recipe, I've used either whole milk, evaporated milk, buttermilk, or orange juice, and they've all worked successfully. You won't get the exact same result, but it will be equally delicious. You can try these different options and let me know which one you love best. Evaporated milk and orange juice are more traditional Trinidadian additions, but my personal favorite is buttermilk. The cake comes out super moist and absolutely delicious, and it gives it a hint of a sour taste, which I really love. 3/4 cup of liquid is usually the magical amount. Half cup will result in a very dry cake. Adding too much liquid can result in a soggy bottom cake. The cake will look pudding-like and will be undercooked. And this is all based on my personal experience. Your experience might be different, so let me know what works for you. Adding in the cinnamon, because I forgot to do it earlier on, and it didn't turn out too bad. I really liked this. It tasted like a cinnamon swirl cake because it wasn't too evenly incorporated. Remember, we're only mixing just until incorporated. We don't want to overwork the gluten to get a tough cake. But at the same time, just make sure that it's evenly incorporated. And I know I have said that many times before, but it's worth repeating. It's very important. It's time to pour the batter into the prepared pan, and we'll gently smooth the top with a spatula. Early on, I used to tap the pan to remove the air bubbles, but I felt like those air bubbles gave the sponge cake that unique sponge cake look, so I don't do that anymore. It's important for the batter to not sit around, but place the pan immediately in a preheated oven, 350 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle rack, and bake for about 40 to 60 minutes or until golden, a skewer inserted into the center of the cake comes out clean. The center should be springy to the touch as well and not raw. Do not open the oven for the first 40 minutes. Then you'll remove the pan from the oven and let it cool for 10 minutes. Invert the cake onto a cooling rack, remove the paper, flip again, and once it's cool, cut and enjoy. And that's all there is to it, my sweet friends. Simple, quality ingredients, easy techniques, and if you follow the instructions and pay attention to the details on this video, you will have a really good, exceptionally tasty sponge cake every time.